All right, so let's talk about that one thing that gives every audit student nightmares. Yep, I'm talking about the big, scary, multi-mark fraud question. But don't you worry, because today we've got the secret technique, the unofficial jutsu that's going to turn all that fear into some serious marks.
I mean, you know the feeling, right? You flip the page in the exam, your eyes are scanning down, and then bam, there it is, the 15 marker on fraud. Your heart just drops, palms get all sweaty. It feels like a total ambush. But then you take a breath and you remember you've got a cheat code, a structured, step by step framework that's like a map right through all that chaos. And just like that, the panic, it just melts away and turns into pure confidence. So, how are we going to pull this off? Well, here's our game plan. First, we're going to cover the absolute fundamentals with the fraud triangle jutsu. Then, I'm going to give you that 5-step cheat code. After that, we're going on a mission with Akatsuki Inc. to see it in action, dodge some common exam traps, and finally, lock in that path to a merit level answer. You ready? Okay, so before we can master the full technique, we got to get the basics down solid. Think of these as the fundamental hand signs. The stuff you absolutely have to know before you can even think about pulling off the big moves. So what exactly are we talking about when we say fraud? Well, according to ISA 240, the most important word here is intentional. This isn't some clumsy mistake or an error, okay? It's a deliberate act, and it usually shows up in one of two ways. Either you're messing with the financial reports to trick people, cooking the books, or you're just straight up misappropriating assets, basically stealing stuff. Okay, now pay attention because this is a classic exam trap. It is not the auditor's primary job to go out and find fraud. Nope. That huge responsibility, that's on management and those in charge. Our job as auditors is to get reasonable assurance that the financials are free from material misstatement, whether it's because of fraud or error. Think of it this way. We're watchdogs, not bloodhounds. So if our main gig is to look for the risk of fraud, we got to understand how it even happens in the first place, right? And that's where this awesome core concept comes in, the fraud triangle. See, for a fraud to really happen, you almost always need three things to be there all at once: a motivation, an opportunity, and a way to tell yourself it's okay. Let's break that down with a little Konoha flavor. First, you've got incentive, or pressure. This is the why. Think about Payne, the CEO of Akatsuki Inc. He's got this massive bonus hanging over his head, but only if he hits these insane profit targets. That's pressure. Next, there's opportunity. This is the how. Picture this. Kakashi is the only one who approves payroll, but he's always got his nose buried in that book, creating a seriously weak control. And finally, you have rationalization. This is the excuse. It's the little voice in your head, like Danzo, the CFO, who truly believes that aggressive accounting is necessary for the greater good of Konoha Corp. When you see all three of those things together, whoa, that's a major red flag for fraud risk. Okay, now for the main event. Let's see how all this comes together. This right here is the secret scroll, our 5-step cheat code. This framework is going to structure every single one of your answers and make sure you hit all those key marking points every time. Here it is, the 5-step fraud framework jutsu. Step 1, you identify the fraud risk factors from the scenario. The incentives, opportunities, and attitudes we just talked about. Step 2, you link those factors to a specific risk of material misstatement, or RMM. Basically, you're saying what could be wrong in the financials at the account and assertion level. Step 3, you list the required procedures from the ISA 240 playbook. It's the standard stuff. Step 4, this is where you get specific. You design tailored audit responses for the exact risks you just found. And finally, Step 5, you outline who you need to tell and when. See? Simple, structured, and super effective. All right, before we jump into our mission, a quick word on task words. These are super important. When the marker says identify, they literally just want you to point out the key risks and factors straight from the scenario. Easy. But when they say design, they want you to get creative and specific. You can't just say test revenue. No way. You have to say something like, I will select a sample of 20 sales invoices from the last week of the year and trace them back to shipping documents to confirm they actually happened. See the difference? Detail is everything. Okay, it's time to put this jutsu into practice. We've just gotten an urgent scroll. Seems there's some creative accounting going on over at Akatsuki Inc. Our mission? To apply our framework and identify the key fraud risks. So here's the mission briefing. The background is that Akatsuki Inc. is a super fast-growing company, and they're under a ton of pressure to keep performing. We know their CEO, Payne, has a bonus that's 50% of his salary if he hits profit targets. Yikes. Then there's the CFO, Kokuzu, who's known for his expensive tastes, and he's the only one who can post and approve journal entries. And to top it all off, we've spotted a bunch of large, weird revenue entries posted right before year-end. I mean, the red flags are practically waving at us.
Okay, let's apply our framework, steps 1 and 2. First, we identify the factors. The incentive, that's Payne's massive profit-based bonus, easy. The opportunity? Kokuzu having way too much control over journal entries. That's a classic weak segregation of duties. The attitude? Well, Kokuzu's lavish lifestyle could suggest a mindset that would rationalize fraud to keep the money flowing. So, step 2, what's the resulting risk? We've got a high risk of revenue overstatement, specifically for the occurrence and accuracy assertions. And, of course, a huge risk of management override. Now, let's quickly knock out the last 3 steps. Step 3, the required procedures, means we do things like make inquiries with management and run some analytical procedures on revenue. For step 4, our tailored response, we're going to go straight for the jugular, test all of those sketchy year-end journal entries made by Kokuzu. And finally, step 5, communication. We absolutely have to report these risks and our findings to Akatsuki's board, also known as those charged with governance. Now check this out, because this is the difference between scraping a pass and absolutely nailing a merit grade. A Janin-level mistake is saying something vague like, there is a risk of fraud because of the bonus. That's going to get you 0 marks. A Jonin-level answer, on the other hand, is super precise. It says, the incentive of the CEO's bonus tied to profit creates a specific risk of material misstatement in revenue due to overstatement, impacting the occurrence assertion. See that? You're connecting the fact to the risk, to the account, to the assertion. That's where all the marks are hiding.
All right, let's talk about the common traps, the exam genjutsu, that so many students fall for. These are the illusions that will make you lose easy marks, so let's learn how to see right through them. Okay, trap number 1, forgetting the presumed risks. Look, ISA 240 basically gives you 2 free answers. You should always state that revenue recognition and management override are presumed significant fraud risks. Just write it down. Trap number 2, using generic, lazy procedures. Don't just write test revenue. Be specific. Say perform analytical procedures on monthly revenue trends to identify unusual spikes. And trap number 3, ignoring communication. So many people forget this. Always, always include a final step saying you'll communicate your findings to those charged with governance, or TCW. It's such an easy mark to pick up. So we've gone through a lot. After all that, what's the one absolute crucial takeaway? What's the final scroll you need to remember as you walk into that exam?
Here it is, and this is totally non-negotiable. In every single fraud question, you must address the 2 presumed significant risks, revenue recognition and management override. It doesn't matter what the scenario is, you bring these up. It's the key to unlocking a merit grade, I promise you.
And there you have it. The jutsu is yours. You've got the concepts, the 5-step framework, and you know the traps to avoid. You now have everything you need to absolutely dismantle any fraud question they can throw at you. So the only question left is, are you ready to become the Hokage of audit?